Interpret application problems with proportions. So not only are we going to interpret them, but we're going to play and solve them. So let's jump in. Remembering that a proportion is a comparison of two ratios. When we're dealing with applications and we're thinking about setting up a proportion of A over B equals C over D, you have to make sure that you are staying consistent in terms of units. So the big thing is paying attention with setup. I have found in all of my years of teaching that solving proportions with cross multiplication is the easy part for students. It's the setting up that tends to be difficult. So let's take some time with that. In the first example, I ran 3 miles in 29 minutes. I wish I could do that. If I keep this pace, how long will it take me to run 7 miles round to the nearest minute? Okay, so the big thing that I think about is, what are we talking about? Well, I'm comparing, my pen just shut off and died. Okay, so I'm comparing miles to minutes. So when I think about my ratio or my proportion, okay, so this is like my proportion that I'm playing with here. I want to compare miles to minutes. If you are a visual learner, do this. This means that everything in the numerator is about miles and everything in the denominator is about minutes. Now, I have two ratios. The first one, I'm going to do the ratio on the left is what I know. And the one on the right is what I want, right? This is the particular problem that I'm looking at. So what I know that I ran 3 miles in 29 minutes, right? Miles on top, minutes on the bottom. What do I want? Well, I want to run 7 miles. I don't know how long it's going to take me. That's the question, how long? So now I can do my cross multiplying. So 3x equals 7 times 29, which is 203. Divide both sides by 3 to get x by itself, and I know that x equals 67.66, and it goes on forever. 6 tells me to round up, so the answer is 68 minutes. I know the units because it's in the denominator, so we are minutes. That means if I want to run 7 miles at this pace, it will take me 68 minutes. Right, there's the interpretation. But you first have to do the setup and the solve before you can interpret. What does that 68 mean? And if you set this up with your labels, then you know I want to run 7 miles in 68 minutes. It kind of shows you what your interpretation is because you have everything labeled. All right, let's do another one. Your cookie recipe, your recipe for cookies, requires 1.5 cups of sugar and 4 cups of flour. If you have 10 cups of flour to use making cookies, how many cups of sugar would you need? What are we talking about? Well, we're making cookies, right? So we have sugar and we have flour. And y'all, you have multiple ways of correctly setting up every proportion. And that is why I like to do this. I like to label things. In my case, I just saw sugar then flour, so I put sugar on the top. You could put flour on the top. As long as you are consistent with your numbers and putting them in the correct label spot, it's going to be fine. Okay, so then I have a recipe, right? And then I have what I have on hand. Okay, so the recipe says sugar is 1.5, flour is 4. That's the recipe. What do I have? I have 10 cups of flour. Flour's on the bottom, 10 goes here. The question is, how many cups of sugar do I need? I don't know. There, that's where it is. I don't know how many cups of sugar I have to have for what I'm doing. Now we've set it up. So I want to know, have sugar. How much do I need? That's what I want, okay? All right, so we cross multiply. 10 times 1.5 is 15. 4 times x is 4x. To solve, we divide both sides by 4, and x equals 3.75. What's the units? Well, we're talking about sugar, and everything is in cups. So this is cups of sugar. So if I have 10 cups of flour, and I want to use all of it to make cookies, I need 3.75. That's 3 3/4 cups of sugar. And this is important, right? Not just because of making cookies, but in terms of you want to make sure you have things in the right places. The setup is crucial. Do not be lazy. Go ahead and write it out. Give yourself a visual so that you make fewer mistakes.